Hello and welcome to Waiting for Game, the weekly podcast presented by Melee Stats. And we have quite an episode today. So if you came from the Smash World Tour Twitter, you would see that Smash World Tour has already begun announcing players that'll take place in the regional qualifiers for Smash World Tour 2021. And personally, I am super excited to be here with Edwin Budding and Ambi Sinister so we can bring you through the players that are announced, Smash World Tour itself, and just who to look out for. So I'm Gimme That Wheat. I am a tournament seeder. I work on the MPGR, the top 100 for Melee. We've got Edwin Budding here. He wrote the Book of Melee. Ambi Sinister, who makes a lot of good content for the Melee Stats YouTube channel, does a lot of really great content on his own that deep dives into some of the minutia of Melee scene. So I'm super excited to be able to talk to these people about the pretty cool event that we're going to be seeing. So how are you guys doing today?
I'm doing great week. I'm ready to talk about some awesome news for the melee scene, to talk about this exciting new news and whatnot. I'm just ready to go.
Yeah, I'm doing great also. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be such a sick event. And I mean, I think all of Smash World Tour is so cool. So I just want to kind of let's talk about what Smash World Tour is briefly, just so we can kind of understand what we're getting into. Because I think there's been a little bit that's been lost when it comes to the whole thing. So Smash World Tour is going to be a series of events that takes place over 2021. It's going to have, I believe, 6 or 7 regions that we're going to see play from, and then there's going to be a finals at the end of the year with 24 players who make it from these qualifying events. So what we're seeing right now get announced is Central America. That's the first region that we're going to see announcements from, and I think the group of players right here is so cool. Central America is definitely one of those regions that Melee players know the history of. We've seen players make the top 100 before. Bimbo's top 100 currently. We've seen Javi make the first 2 or 3 top 100s, and Any Mexico as well has been on several. But I think the region has like a real depth to it that we don't generally get to see when it's just like top 64 of Genesis or something like that. So I think it's super cool to be able to see all these players. So we have 16 players here. We're going to go over them, give a little brief introduction to them, and we're going to go in depth later. So I want to start with the first player we have is Aza. So Aza is someone who has been part of the Mexican scene for a long time. I think if you were to know them, they were second on the most recent Mexican Melee PR, which was from 2018. But the super good Sheik player, and the cool thing with them is that they're this player who's a little more old school than some of the newer names on here, and I think that that's like the big thing we're going to see with Mexico and Central America as a whole. Can these old school players still keep up with these new age players? What do you guys think about Aza? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I just think Oz is super interesting because I feel like we haven't seen a super great amount of him in quarantine. So in my head, he's like a very very big question mark. I feel like I could see him like super going off, or I could also super see him explode to like one of the other players that came up a little bit more during quarantine. So I'm really excited to see him enter this event and see like where he ends up. But big question mark for me.
Yeah, I think that Aza is kind of going to be part of a recurring theme. I think that we're going to be reviewing tonight about kind of like the new generation of Central American players against the older one. Aza, I know, was formerly number 2 in the country, and frankly, the last result I can remember from him was all the way in 2019 when he won a tourney over JPEG. In fact, one of the things I mentioned with Aza is that Aza used to be one of my go-to examples of top players from Mexico that I would constantly tell other people was legit, right? Like Aza was always near kind of like that tier 1.5 of Mexico of players who I think maybe weren't necessarily known to the US or to the broader international scene, but who always impressed me whenever I saw him take on like other top talent. So I'm really interested to see how he does this tournament. And we haven't seen him in a while, so it'll be exciting.
Yeah. So you mentioned Aza as this player who is like kind of someone who's really good, someone to watch out for, but someone who might not be known. I think that that is a lot of the players who we see here, as you mentioned. players who've been this way for a while, and there's some players who, before 2021, before 2020, we might not have seen on this level. But that being said, Edwin, the next player we have, someone who doesn't really fall under that category at all, someone who we know to be this level, right?
Yeah, so there's so many places I could start with Bimbo. We could talk about him making the MPGR top 100 in 2019. We could talk about several of his positive records over the field. However, I think there's one particular record that stands out, and this blew my mind when I found this out. According to the SmashData.gg base of results, he is 17-2 against Eddie Mexico in their last 19 sets. Eddie Mexico, perennial top 100 player, former SoCal PR member, losing to Bimbo nonstop. It blew. I know Falco Luigi is not a great matchup. I think both players are great, but this absolutely blew my mind. So to me, I think Bimbo, based on his records against the field, based on his extremely dominant record against one of the best players at this event, to me, I think he is a contender for this tournament, if not the leading favorite.
Yeah, I agree. I don't even know if I would consider Bimbo the best player that was selected from Central America, but I do think that he has a very, very strong chance of outright winning the qualifier for Central America
Yes.
specifically. I think he performs very well in region.
Yeah. And before I get into this, I do want to say, as proud as I am to be presenting this, obviously, being able to work with Smash World Tour in any capacity. It's been a really great experience. I do want to say that Melee Stats involvement in specific regions is pretty limited. We're happy to be able to talk about these players, but I want to let you know that we are not the ones who are choosing specific players for Central America. Most of these regions are going to be built up from TOs, players, seeders from that region itself. So we actually had a really great group of people from Mexico and from some other Central American countries who were able to make these selections. And I think they did a great job. And I think you guys are right. Bimbo, obviously, he is the player who probably has the biggest X on his back going into this because he's just the one who we know most currently. We have the most data on him. I mean, he's the only player who was on the most recent top 100. But yeah, I want to get into this later. We're going to talk about players to look out for. But I think that he is. It's not a given by any chance. Um, Speaking of players who definitely fly under the radar, though, Ambi, we have another player who's coming up who I don't think a lot of people know about.
Yeah, so alphabetically third on this list is Dash, who I wager a fair number of you probably have not heard of. Dash is a Samus player, formerly known as Dyna Dash or Dash Akari, and she's like a super technical, old school Samus player. And admittedly, I haven't like seen that much from her results wise. But so something interesting about the Mexican power ranking is that it went down to 50, which should, I think, speak a little bit towards their claim of depth of their region. And Dash on the most recent power ranking was 39th. But here she is, qualifying for the Central American qualifier. So very, very excited to see her. If you've never heard of her, I think something you should do after this is maybe go on YouTube and look up Femme Fatale or Femme Fatale 2, her very old school technical Samus combo video series from like 2007. But very excited to see some Samus representation.
Yeah, I think it's going to be so sick. Samus, obviously a player, or a character we really haven't seen a ton of over the past few years. And being able to see not only one but two Samuses at this event, I know I'm kind of spoiling a little bit. I think it's gonna be so sick. And this is one of those players who we kind of mentioned, someone who flies under the radar, but someone who's been in the Mexican scene for such a long time. One of the great things about Smash World Tour is just the ability to take these players who have been playing in this scene so long and being able to give them like a pedestal, being able to give them a showcase. And I think that Dash is going to be a really fun one to look out for. Edwin, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just think it's wild that, the last thing I can remember from Dash in terms of results is she beat Languitas like a few years ago when Languitas was starting to get a lot better in region. So I'm interested to see how those two would do against each other again. very different trajectories and different levels of activity. But with higher stakes than ever in a while, it'll be interesting to see how she does. And I just have to add that it's very funny that at a notable event we're going to be seeing two very respectable, solid Samus players, which is not something that we can say for many tournaments today.
I don't know if many regions would have that, but I mean, hey, if we are talking about interesting characters, I feel like the next person on the list probably takes the cake so far. Edwin, I think you've got a little to say about Dream, don't you?
Yeah, so Dream has been one of the better or one of the top Ganon players in the world over the last couple of years. You might recognize him for having a run at Genesis 7 where he beat Curve, but I want to mention one very funny month of results that I saw from Dream in particular. So his activity has been a little like up and down over the in April. Now this is a list of strange heavy hitters for Dream. He beat YCZ, he beat Whiskers, he beat Ziri, he beat Nintendude, and he beat Lag, all in the same month. And in January he actually took a set off CDK as well. So Dream, I think top 3 to 5 Ganons in the world. I think he's got a pretty good case for that. He's been solidly active in Mexico for a while. I think he's been slowly but incrementally climbing up the ranks in region. I think he's someone that's always been steadily improving.
Yeah, I mean, so Dream, we're talking about the current ranking for Mexico, which is from 2018. So it could be a little dated in some ways, but Dream at 6, I don't think is dated. I think that he has proven that he is a top talent in the region of Mexico, despite the fact that he does play Ganon. And yeah, you're right. Like at his last large LAN event that we saw him at, he was able to get a lot of really great wins. He beat Curve. I had a great time watching him go game 3 with Spud. Like he is definitely someone who has a lot of potential, and I think that there's like not a ton of up and coming players who you could who play a character like Ganon, who have the same potential that he does. So I think it's super cool to see that he's on this level. Uh, but going on with the topic of characters though, we go for Ganon and we scale down a little bit and we go to probably someone who's maybe one of the most well known players here, Eddie Mexico. Eddie Mexico, if you know Luigi players, probably know Abate, and then maybe he's right has been so good for so long, and I believe he's made almost every top 100, including I think he's been the highest ranked Luigi. He was like 31st or whatever. So he definitely has the pedigree of a player who has like these really great achievements, and it's really cool to see that he is not slowing down. We've been seeing a lot of really great results about his results. He's got a lot of funny results about like beating Fat Goku and stuff, and just the type of results that we would see about from someone who has a resume of a top 100 player. Yeah, Edwin, do you have any specific good wins you've seen from him? Because I know he's got a bunch.
Well, the first 3 I can think of are all on Fat Goku, and then after that, I would also mention that he has wins over Zamu and Toussaint in the year. He is just when it comes to someone who's able to take on the international field, I think he's as reliable of a presence as you could have in top 64 or top 30 or even top 32 or 48 of any.
Yeah, Ambi. So we got another player coming up. Do you want to introduce them?
Yeah, so the next player on our list is Far. That is Far with an exclamation point at the end of it. Um, and Far I think is maybe I'm like too in the hole with melee results, but I feel like Far is one of those players that like if you follow melee results, you probably are at least a little bit familiar with. They did famously beat Hugs that one time in like 2016. I think it was at in Evo. More recently, they beat like Meds and Loser Side of Grands and Infinite Four. Ended up losing the tournament, but I think Far has always shown some pretty good like consistent results, like right under the super elite tier within the Mexican community. Um, and very very much a shoe in I think for the Central American qualifier for Smash World Tour. So excited to see where we can go from there.
For sure. I mean, yeah, he is currently a top 10 player in Mexico. And I think, oddly enough, I don't know if a lot of people know his results from this, but he got a little bit of a boost in notoriety from the second national melee arcade. So Bobby Big Balls ended up winning the event. Far was actually the one who sent Bobby to losers. The only one to beat that. Made top 8 at that event. Actually got the same place as Albert, so definitely a cool little thing to see from him. Yeah, one of those players who has been really solid for a while, and yeah, pretty much immortalized by the legendary Chillin' Dude 829.
Yeah, I will say that I think Far, for someone someone who's been around the block for a while and has always been one of the better Mexican players, I think Far is one of the more volatile ones. I think like if Far goes to this event and maybe the bracket doesn't work out well for him, and if Far finishes near the bottom, I would not be surprised if we see Far in winners finals or even winner size of grands. I would not be that shocked either. Farr is just kind of like is a very difficult player to predict how he'll do. So I'm excited to watch him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
a
on the
pool like this, definitely something where he could thrive in, and a pool like this with so many spaces, definitely something that could be really scary. Ambi, what's up? What are your thoughts on this?
yeah, I was just gonna say on the topic of players that are really hard to predict. We have our next player who I'm sure all of you know, Mexico, Javi. And this is very exciting because I feel like we haven't seen Javi anywhere. But the current number one beat PPMD that one time that all of us know. Yeah, I'm very excited to see Javi play. I think I can see him like destroying everyone. I guess Samus's. I think that you really get the full spectrum with having Javi here, so I'm really really excited. What do you guys think?
Yeah, we've seen from Javi versus Samus before, but I mean, like that is not the norm. We've seen tons of great sets with him. It really does well. That being said, that is from a time where it's a little bit ago, and I think that Javi's one of the more interesting players here. He is, you mentioned he's the current number one in Mexico, and I think the interesting thing with that, we keep referencing this PR. It is from 2018, and I do think that even in 2018, his activity was kind of low, and only kind of got lower as 2019, 2020 came along. And yeah, I mean the question I think a lot of people have is he still number one? And that's going to be the big question. He is someone who is the peak player for Mexico, in my opinion. Had definitely had the highest SSBM rank, top 100 slot of any player from Mexico. So I think we could see a lot of stuff from him. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think if anyone outside of Mexico or Central America tells you sure what will happen with Javi, as far as I'm concerned, I just want to see him hit some opposing player with as sick of a combo as he hit on Pew Pew that one time at Evo. I still think of that combo like once a month.
He, yeah, dude. I cannot say how cool I think it is that we are going to see Javi in an event in 2021. I don't know if you told me been, 2019, 2020. I don't know if I believe that, but it's going to be so sick to see him playing, especially with all these other players. I think this is such a cool event. Um, and if we're talking about cool players, I got to mention the next one on the list, JCam. So JCam is the first player who we've been introducing who is from a region other than Mexico. So Central America is getting some representation. Is from Panama, and definitely one of the best international Sheik mains, I think, right now. One of the best Sheik mains to have a tag that starts with J. Uh, Fits a lot of those. He ticks a lot of those boxes, and it's going to be so exciting to see on land versus all of these people because J Camp, really young guy, 20 or so, and being from Panama, a region that we don't generally see a lot of players from, we haven't seen a ton from him on land. So him going to this is great. I think he is one of the players who I would think might do the best. It's going to be a tough thing. We're going to talk about it later. A strong player. What do you guys think about JCam?
Yeah, so just for reference, JCam, outside of, like playing at other Central American tournaments, he is as safe of a bet as a player to pick to win those events. And these are no jokes for events. They have people like XL0, Zoraco, Stiff, a lot of really strong players who, frankly, like if they were in an international field, I would feel confident in saying that they're just outside or around top 100 level. And JCam just cleans them up. The consistency in which he beats these players is truly remarkable in a way that I think a lot of people kind of take for granted. And as far as his results outside of that field, he was the only Sheik to defeat J-Mook in the J-Sheik round robin. And for other results against players that some of you might be more familiar with, he has wins over Forest, Komodo, Fable, H-Trot, and Blues Clues. This is someone who I don't know for sure how he will perform at a massive tournament, but I think within a field of competitors he can prepare for, I think he's proven that he absolutely has what it takes to kind of get a read on everyone and dominate them. In the same vein of Bimbo, I would say that JCam is absolutely worthy of being mentioned in the same caliber of players who could win the event.
Yeah, I think at the risk of entering opinion land, I am one of those people that thinks Sheik is heavily nerfed on net play. And JCam, I feel like we've seen a lot of representation from him playing friendlies with like the top North American players on like 3-frame, 4-frame with like these new crazy builds and stuff. And I just really want to see, because I think he's a very gifted player, and I think that seeing what he's capable of on a CRT television would be really, really, really exciting for me. So
Yeah, the youngest player here, I believe, and someone who you mentioned it. He has all these great wins on XL0, who is former top 100 Peach player. All these great wins on another player who we're going to see, Kata. Ambi, what do you think about Kata?
yeah, so Kata is a very fun player. I'm sure that anyone that's followed net play results is familiar with Kata, Puerto Rican Samus player. Kata has been playing a lot of net play tournaments. No matter where they're located, he will be there. And I think that Kata is a very, very funny player. Both playstyle wise and just like as a constant presence in these net play events. So really excited to see him. You know, enter some of these more local events. I think Kata sets you can exclude like the time he beat Zane's Roy. But I think that
Excluding
like
that's when
that's
Kata
like
got
okay.
my attention.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I think it's I don't want to pop off too hard about Samus versus Roy. That just sounds very hard for Roy. What I do think is funny is him reverse 3-0ing LSD twice. I think that is very funny, and I think that I'm interested to see how he performs on LAN. Is the way that I will phrase that.
A lot of eyes on the land. Obviously not the land debut of Kata, but probably the biggest land tournament that Kata is going to be at for a little bit. So I think ever since Kata kind of blew up because of the net play scene, um, has been able to show off the skills. I think it's gonna be so cool to see that on land.
Yeah, I just want to mention, like with Kata, when you look through his results, it's actually like insane. We mentioned the fact that he beat Logan twice, and that's like, maybe you could discount that as like one tournament or something. But like you look through his resume, it's actually ridiculous. Like if you just saw those results, you would think that Kata was like a top 60 player in the world. Like multiple wins on Chem, like his wins over Body Big Balls, SFOP, Panos, Panda, like these are
Yeah,
these are not like these are not like or just like random players. Like this is like some of the best talent that I find in the scene, and Kata's by the results at least, is consistently beating them. So I mean, maybe Kata destroys everyone on land,
Yeah.
and we all have to hold it. Who knows?
Well, I don't know if anyone's holding anything. I think that I'm just very excited because this is definitely a player that was like sort of a shoe-in, I think, just based off of net play results. And
Mhm.
the perennial question of how much that transfers to the more general CRT environment is always like, I think. So we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, Kata definitely one of the bigger question marks. I think that there's a few players here who I think are really, really solid. And someone like Kata who has those big results, I think kind of takes over. We got a lot of other players who kind of fly under the radar, even in the like 2020, 2021 era, where a lot of people from different regions have been able to pop off. I think Linguitas is one of these players. What do you think about this, Edwin? I know you got some wins that this Linguitas player has.
Yeah, so when I first was learning about Languidos a few months ago for my Central America preview on the Melee Stats website, I wasn't that familiar with him other than just noticing that he had been making top 8 at a couple of Mexico events. So when I looked into it more, like the more it actually like really stood out that this is someone who has kind of been like steadily making the jump from the mid level of Mexico into the upper level, which, as you know from how stacked Mexico is, it's not an easy thing to do. So just for reference at some of his results, he's beaten Stiff multiple times. He has a kata win from earlier in the year. At a big event, he eliminated JCam from it, which is incredibly unusual.
Very big.
So that's that's a very big step forward for him. And I think most impressively as it pertains to this field, he actually has beaten Eddie Mexico twice in the last few months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really exciting one. I think that I talked a little bit about this with some other people earlier, but I think that Eddie Mexico makes a very interesting parallel to AMSA, where I think AMSA is like this legendary, top 10 easily caliber player, and like has been for a really long time. And then you see his results in region, and they're like decidedly mediocre compared to his international performances. Um, and that has like periods where it waxes and wanes depending on the state of his local community. But I really do feel like Eddie Mexico is a sort of similar story where I just feel like he's the clear like probable favorite in the group relative to like winning the whole Smash World Tour, I guess. But I think that he might have some difficulty winning this qualifier in order to make it there. So I think that it'll be really interesting to see how it shakes out.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely lots of players who are very scary to the top level. There's just this whole like openness, I think, to the event, and I think that really helps players we might not who we might like view as underdogs. I think Lenguitas is one of them, and I think another fellow Fox player, Marito. So Marito is best known to me for being Marito one, and then having someone else in his own region having tag Marito two, which is quite possibly Marito two is quite possibly my favorite tag ever. But we're talking about Marito one. We're talking about the original, and yeah, I mean, really
The
has
OG.
solidified themselves as this up and coming player. Ranked 23rd in 2017 on the Mexican PR, made his way up to 18th on the 2018. I think we've seen a steady rise from him in a way that definitely does not have the kind of bombastic results that we see from some of these other players here, but just like is really, really shows the solid play. We've seen wins on Dream, on other players who are on this list, like Supercock. Zamarita is another good player. Like, I think he is a player who has the ability to really like punch his weight well here, and definitely someone who has a lot to prove. What do you guys? Do you guys have any thoughts on him? I know he's kind of compared to what we're going to see, definitely one of the lesser known players.
Yeah, I think just to kind of add on to what you're saying, usually a very good indicator for if someone's ready to kind of take the next jump in their play is when they start beating a lot of people consistently who are considered around their tier. So I think Marito definitely he fits that very standard that you were talking about. as kind of the first half of the criteria. Now the next part is to see if he can take like the ability to get a big win every
It's the next step,
few
right?
big tournaments or not. Yeah, into a big breakout.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
definitely. The players who are able to do really well versus the players around them, that says a lot. And I think that is just like showing that they are improving more so than maybe one top win here or there. But when we talk about a bracket like this, when we talk about 16 of the best players from Mexico and Central America, we're going to talk about people who he would needs to have those wins. He needs to have the showcase wins on these top level players, which is something that we've seen. He has really good wins on his level. We just need to see if he's going to do well at the Smash World Tour 2021 Central America event. We're going to have to see him punch a. I think it's possible, but not. We haven't seen to the same level. Ambi, what are your thoughts on this?
yeah, so I actually have like sort of a I do think that the discourse around this player in particular so far is a bit too Marito focused, for lack of a better phrase. I do think that I think he's good. I think he's demonstrated some improvement. What I think is really interesting about Marito and like that caliber of player on this list in general is that I think it would be like an incredible performance for any of them to qualify for the tournament. But I do think that a very realistic performance for a lot of these tier of players is to be very dangerous for the higher tier caliber of players, right? And I think that's where things start to get interesting, and that's why I think it's like really exciting that it's like not an 8-person qualifier or 4-person qualifier or whatever, because like Marito has wins on players like Asa, and it's very good day, and he takes down one or two of these top dogs, and then like the top 8 bracket looks without his presence there. So I think definitely a player capable of punching 7 or 8 times in a row or whatever, but definitely enough to make the tournament very interesting.
100% a threat to the top players. You're right. I mean, if we're going to talk about threats to that top level, I think Pantera has to be one of them. I believe he's the only Falcon main who we're going to see here, and just really one of the better up and coming Falcons. Edwin, what are your thoughts on Pantera?
Yeah, I got a lot to talk about Pantera.
I don't mean
I
the
think he's
band,
one of
by
the.
the way. I've got a lot less to
I
talk about Pantera.
Yeah, we don't have to go into that. But yeah, Fox and Falco player. If you've watched a couple big events over the last year and a half, you probably recognize his name in bracket. He's got wins on like Valdo, Salt, Pappy. He's one thing that stood out about him is that he's proven himself against the like upper mid level of North America a lot. He's got has wins over like B-Bats, Jace, Wasabi, Blues Clues, Pappy, and obviously like he's beaten Pappy as well. I actually would like to correct myself on something I said earlier. I actually mixed up my notes on Pantera and Languidas. Languidas actually has a J-Flex win, but Pantera has beaten Eddie Mexico the last 2 times that they've played, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Like that's not something that you just do like twice in such a short period of time. So I think Pantera is on the cusp of a pretty big breakout.
Yeah, really good from both of them. I mean, even with like those both of those results, I think that Languidos is capable of doing that. I think that Pantera is capable of doing
Hmm.
that as well. I think it's like pretty easy to mix that up, just because this level of play that we've seen for them is really similar, and they're all around this like same skill level, which is why events like this is going to be super cool. Uh, yeah, Pantera is like you mentioned he's a Falcon player with a Fox as well, and it's going to be really interesting to see in this bracket, which is very heavy on Foxes, Falcos. We have some Sheiks here and there. So I think being the only Falcon is going to be this really interesting sticking point. But if there is someone who I feel confident in being able to overcome, like a character matchup in this 16 players, I don't know. I think Pantera could do it. I really have a faith in him.
I think he's good versus the Spaceys too. You kind of have to be if you're from Central
Hmm.
America because it's so
Yeah.
dense with Spaceys. But
Yeah.
I think one that I think kind of flies under the radar is Pantera has a win on Toph. And I think Toph has gotten very good at that matchup. So I remember I saw this. I saw that Pantera like gave Toph the hands, and I was like, oh, dude, Toph's pretty good at that matchup. So I do think that he's very likely to be quite dangerous for a lot of these people. I think that a lot of these players won't super omega focus on playing against Falcon to prepare. You know what I mean? Like this is like something that I think about with like these smaller type of events where like I feel like a lot of people are gonna come to this event like with like Luigi game plan. You know what I mean? They're gonna be like, oh yeah, I know I'm gonna do this against Luigi. I'm gonna study Luigi VODs so I could beat Eddie Mexico to win the tournament or something. But I think Pantera can catch people by surprise because I think that it feels unadvantageous to be super warm versus Falcon at this event, and I think Pantera likewise will be able to prepare for the other matchups really well. So I think he's a really fun one to watch for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. Um, we have another player who kind of has a little bit of a dual main situation, a little bit of expertise across multiple characters. We have Rael, who's I think is a cool player to look out for. Edwin, so what's up with this player? I know he was top 10 before, but was left off of the 2018 Mexico Power ranking. So what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, so Rael is kind of all over the place. Yeah, I remember the very first time I saw Rael on a notable stage is when he took a game off Hungrybox at PAX Arena, which was
I do
wow, that
remember
was
that.
5 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
that was 5 years ago. And I remember thinking, what the hell? Who is Rael? And about like a year and a half later, Melee Stats, we had our whole running. I mean, it wasn't even a gag. We were straight up convinced that Mexico was a top 5 region in the world. And Rael was kind of like one of the players at the borderline top 10 or so. Um, as far as his activity goes, I will say he's kind of all over the place. Like he'll go to an event and then just kind of not play for a while, then show up again, do all right, and then disappear for a bit. In recent times, he finished 49th at Pound. He lost to Firebolt, and no fluxes there. I think he's just kind of like a long time guy that everyone knows is really good. If you've ever watched either of his Spacies, you can definitely attest that. He's just kind of it's all there. So
Yeah, he
so
did
if he
beat
if
Bimbo at Smash Factor 8, I think. Uh,
hmm
he's pretty good. I definitely think that his net play results have been all over the place, but I think that he's been a good player for a really long time to the point where I think
Yeah.
he was still like a pretty
yeah,
safe pick.
it doesn't surprise me that he made it here. It's just like I think Rael is a very like kind of up and down player.
I also think that expectations might be a little lower because of that, but Real, very good Falco player. Like we said, top 10 of Mexico at one point. Like we you don't have to prove that he's been good. Um, and gone a lot of Fox recently, especially over 2020, 2021. So I would be interested to see it. We will, everyone will be in person. Even though I'm not sure if I want to make any statements about whether or not Falco's better, like where Falco's better. But obviously there is a comfort to playing Falco on land that I think we're missing out on during the past year and a half, and I'm wondering if Rail's results will be improved from that. I think that's kind of a big question. Obviously not as big as like the hobby question, but I think it's something that's kind of cool to look out for.
Yeah, a lot of great questions, I think.
So we talk about people who they play, and we talk about Pantera. We talk I'm gonna give you a third. Supercock comes in and kind of ups the game. So a Peach main, we've seen really good stuff from the Peach. We've seen good stuff from the Fox, and recently we've seen the Sheik. Definitely something that it's really matchup dependent. Be kind of interesting to see what we're working with because I think there's this there's this tendency of different characters. I know you'll have see a lot of characters or a lot of players in the Mexico scene who have a lot of different characters who play them at very good level play, and it's kind of like to beat specific people. So we're not seeing Supercock at like an open bracket. We're seeing Supercock at an event where he is going to be playing people who, in this, essentially the same region, all Mexican players. 2021. Like it'll be interesting to see how these character choices, what character choices are made, and how they perform against all these players who might have some familiarity. I think it's one of those players who I might just have some sort of bias for Peach, but I'm gonna keep an eye on them because I think they could do some stuff here.
Yeah, I was mentioning this a little bit earlier, but I think Super Quark is one of those players that if the butterfly's wings moved a little bit differently, uh, you would know who they are. I think I think that if you go back and like look at their net play results, it's like very tragic because they're like the king of getting reverse 3-0'd. Like they got reverse 3-0'd by Smash Daddy, they got reverse 3-0'd by B-Bats, they got reverse 3-0'd by I think Poppy. I think a little bit different, and like Super Quack has a bunch of like super big ticket wins, but I think he's had a little bit of difficulty in like the results that I've seen from him, really putting it all together. But real killer relative to the results that we've seen, just based off of like game count and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you want to mention people who are maybe not scary to win the entire event, as good as a player as Super Quack is, but someone who's really kind of scary for specific players, and we keep going back to it. And I think Eddie Mexico, this could be a problem for him. Obviously, we've seen Peach Luigi, we've seen that gone a couple different ways, but we have actually seen Super Quack have a win on Eddie Mexico recently, a 2-0 win. So it'll be interesting to see, given this land environment and given the sets that we will see from an event like Smash World Tour qualifier. I think it'll be interesting to see if Super Quack, if he gets matched up with Eddie Mexico, could be scary.
Did you know Super Quack has a victory on Koopa Troopa?
Yeah,
That
I had reverse.
randomly stood.
Is
I was like,
Koopa
wow, this
and
guy beat
SP92,
Koopa.
I think, were the two ones that I thought were really cool.
Wow, those are
Uh,
those are some ones that I don't know. I probably wouldn't have ever called those matches happening. That's crazy.
yeah.
So we talk about Super Quack. Super Quack is one of those players who definitely on the come up. I don't think a lot of people would know them to this extent, even though yeah, they're not one of the youngest players here. Obviously, we talk about like J Cam is kind of the youngest. But we talk about another player right here. So Valdo. Valdo's a player who I think who's been playing a long time. We've seen a lot of if you look at specific events, but maybe not the like community at large, right? Ambi, what are your thoughts on this player?
Um, I think my thoughts on Valdo are more of a Fox player than as a stats person, I guess. I really enjoy watching Valdo, specifically like within region, because I think Valdo versus Javi is like a very interesting dynamic that they got going on. Because like everyone's watched Javi play. He's like this crazy, super technical, hold arcade pad type shield pressure fox or whatever.
Yeah.
This is gonna sound kind of like shade, but it's super supposed to be like a compliment. I think Valdo is kind of like modern chillin' dude in a lot of ways. I think that
Uh,
like he has like a very interesting style. It feels like a very like adapted old school style kind of. Like he's not much of a ledge dasher. He's like super big into falling up air. He like picks good spots to full hop. Um, I think it'll be really interesting seeing him play against like sort of like the newer styles that are I think more pervasive on netplay these days. But I really do like I encourage any Fox players to just go look at some Valdo sets because I think he plays very different from like the current meta of like improvement player or whatever. He's a very fun player. I like watching his Fox.
Yeah, Valdo's been around like for a
like
really
over
long
10 years,
time at
I
the.
think.
Yeah, I think he
Yeah,
has
he's
sets
like
versus like half the gods, or maybe all of them at this point. I know he has one versus Leffen. I know he has one versus Mango. I know he has one versus Hungry Box. He has a lot of sets.
I will say if Valdo once beat Bimbo during his like big breakout year, which is pretty wild at the time.
Yeah, I believe it. He's super good.
Yeah, I think that we talked about it before with a couple different players. We talked about it with Aza. I think we talked about it with Javi. That this is going to be a really cool tournament because it's going to pit a lot of these old players we haven't seen against kind of these more active people. And I think that's one of the really cool things that we get from the Central American tournament, and I think it's one of the really cool things that we just get from Smash World Tour in general. So yeah, Baldo definitely one of the ones who it's going to be interesting to see. An old school play, but obviously the the mind games are there, the adaptations there, the level of play is still high, despite maybe the way they get to that level of play might look different, might be different than some of these newer school players. So yeah, gonna be one of those players who's really cool to watch out for. And then the last player, so the 16th player who we're gonna talk about today, I think this is a super cool player. This has been a player who I've watched a lot of. I believe I donated money to a journey compendium to get them to Genesis 4 or something. I don't think they ended up actually hitting their goal, but I was willing to put my money where my mouth is, and I was willing to do so for you, not Edwin or Ambi, but you, the player who has had high level sets in both Mexico and Japan. One of the players who I think speaks to nerds like us, because his data is so all over the place. He is able to play really well versus the top Mexican players. And he's able to play really well versus the Japan players. So I actually, not as relevant to the conversation that we're having right now, but I actually learned of you when he was in Japan. He was in Japan for a few years. Ended up, I think, getting ranked like third at one point in Japan, which is a huge accomplishment. He had a win over Amsa. He had wins over Sane. He had wins over Rudolph. He had wins over Shippu. Like, if you were going to name like a player who's able to have wins of that caliber, that is a player who I think is really good. And in an event like this, that is really scary. You, not someone who's been entering a ton, but obviously has the results and obviously has the skill. One of the players I'm looking out for most. What do you guys think about you?
Yeah, so I just want to mention, in addition to the obvious fact that he was top 5 in Japan and Mexico, which is insane, by the way. This dude was able to beat Rudolph during Rudolph's time, just destroying all of
Rudolph,
Japan. When I
unbeatable
say
number
all
one
of Japan,
guy.
yeah, when I say all of Japan, I mean all of Japan. So for you to take sets off Rudolph during that time was ridiculous. But in recent times, we're talking about people who are capable of beating Eddie Mexico. You is absolutely one of those players. In fact, he did so just about a few weeks ago. I know he also has a win on Curve. He lately took Lucky to Game 5. This guy has just
That's
been like
nuts.
super legit. Yeah, this guy's just been super legit for like 5 years now. It's not surprising seeing him here, and it's not surprising seeing him perform the way he's been lately.
Agreed, yeah. I think it's nuts that he took Lucky to Game 5. That to me is like almost as impressive as him beating Amsa, honestly. I think that's insane. Uh, just
I don't
like
know
a
how to take
really,
that.
yeah, I don't know. I just think it's nuts.
Yeah. I mean, you is so good. If we're going to talk about, so we obviously mentioned all 16 players are here. If we want to talk about the players who I think have the chances to win, I think all 16 of these players are good. We talked about that. I think that this is such a cool group of 16 players, but what it takes to win a tournament is a lot different than what it takes to qualify for one. And I think that if you're going to talk about the level of play for the players who win or get one of the two slots to the finals, I think that you is squarely in that conversation. We talk about how he would do versus Eddie Mexico. We think that that is a favorable matchup. And when it comes to a bracket like this, being able to do well versus Eddie is going to be a great boon for your success. Talk about how he did versus Lucky. He's obviously does well in the Spaceys matchup, and someone like Kata or Dash, some characters who might not be as universal like a Samus character. Um, I still think that like pure matchup wise and the way that I seen you play, I still think that's pretty good. So I'm not sure if I want to call 100% that you is would win or you would make one of the two slots, but I think in terms of
He's definitely up there. I think
yeah,
Sheik would be
Yeah,
pretty tough for him.
yeah,
That's the one that immediately comes to mind. I think JCam would be, I think, a pretty big wall for him to win the event. But I think in terms of qualifying for one of the two spots, um, definitely I could see it. It's just I don't know. This is such a it's such an interesting region because I think that like the top two on this list is so marred in confusion, right? Like I think
yeah,
that there's like 7 or 8 players that could be top two at this event, um, like pretty handily. Um, so I think that I couldn't tell you. I definitely think that you is in that conversation though. I think he's very legendary.
Who else do you guys think is in that conversation?
I would put. I think, in spite of not seeing him that much against a broader field outside of Central America, I really do believe in J-Cam. I think his matchup spread is just rock solid. Um, the only thing that makes me wonder about other people is the fact that we just haven't seen we just haven't seen that much of him with like really big stakes. I feel like Bimbo is a pretty safe pick for his spread against the field. I think if I were to name one person that I think will win, it's probably him. Can be said, I think there's like 7 or 8 people at this event that if they end up in winners finals or in grands, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, J Cam, someone obviously as you said, being from Panama, is not really in the same region as a lot in North America. So we were able to see him at some events, but definitely not one of those players who's able to show up to everything. Regardless, what he's been able to do in the Central American events has been really impressive. I don't believe he's ever lost to Kata. I think he's got like an insanely positive record on him if he ever had as a loss. Like what he's been able to do in that little region has been really dominant. And those are the cool players, right? I love to see a region where you have like one really dominant player, and then you get to finally see them at a big event. And the cool thing is that, like as 2020 and 2021 Melee evolves, we're able to see different versions of what like being number one in your little tiny scene because your scene kind of grows out and expands in that way. Um, so what we've been able to see from him is super good. I think if it were a year ago, 2 years ago, if you had an event which was 16 of the best players from Mexico and Central America, I think it'd be crazy to say that JCam would be that high. But
Hmm.
legitimately, one of the top 5 players here in my mind, in terms of him being able to get one of those two slots or even win, I think he's got some of the best odds here.
I agree. Yeah, I think
Well, who does J-Cam not want to face? Who is scary for him in this bracket?
I think Javi is very scary for him. I think there's a couple players that immediately come to mind as potential threats to JCam. I think of all the people that have been pretty active on net play, I think he's got a pretty fair, like strong odds against pretty much all of them. But I think that a very interesting thing about this is that a lot of people are coming out of the woodworks to enter this event. I think Javi is really interesting. I think Valdo is really interesting.
Yeah, Valdo
Um,
could be like throw him off guard.
yeah, I think there's a it's definitely very open, right? Like I'm not saying that like maybe you're favored, maybe you're favored, like I just think you know, we have to acknowledge that while there are people that maybe we think are favorites, they're definitely not like a sure thing to win. I think that it's
Yeah,
very open tournament.
yeah, it's such a sick.
Dude, I think the craziest thing is that like there is a player in the field who has the best like international results, right? Like the
Yeah,
best player in this field is Eddie Mexico by far, and we are talking about all the other people that could
It'll be
potentially
hard for
beat
Eddie
Eddie Mexico.
Mexico to win this tournament or to get top
Yeah.
two in this
What?
tournament. It'll be really hard. It'll be a really good result
T-
for.
I
tell
also
me, this, Ambient Wheat. Who does Eddie Mexico want to see in his path? Because I think there are so many killers for him, and he's the best player in the in the public eye, and for good reason.
I mean, the thing with this region is I don't even know when you said the best player. I'm not even sure if I knew who it was because we've seen incredible results from Bimbo at majors in 2019. we've seen incredible results from Eddie Mexico throughout 2020 and 2021. And I mean, like, obviously, we all know the incredible results that Javi has had throughout his career. Obviously, a little earlier than we've seen this. But yeah, I mean, it's so hard for me to even know who you mean when you say the number one player going into this, because that's just how stacked this event is. Eddie Mexico, yeah, I mean, we talked about there's so many killers here. Despite that, looking at his bracket runs from 2020 and 2021, all those Fat Goku wins, the win on Samu, you said Toussaint, like all these things, I would say in the moment would be super hard, and yet we've seen success. So I mean, it is perseverance, and I don't think there's a way to be a Luigi main for 10 years or whatever, and not have a level of perseverance. So I think that, like almost every event, probably be some mountains to climb, but I'm really excited to see how they do.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, who else we got? Because I think that we talk about how this is such like an open event, but the level of like people, the tier of people who could get first at this event, I think it's still pretty broad. But I mean, I definitely think it's kind of a little small. Do we think that anyone else has a really good chance at this? You know, maybe really quick shout outs to anyone in particular.
I mean,
I think with the
It's
yeah, go on.
hard. It's hard to say it without naming everyone, right? I think that's the issue that we're
yeah.
all having.
I also think it's really dependent on the bracket, which, as far as I know, is not available.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, the
Like,
event.
like jumping like straight out and being like, Kata, for example, is a really fun one to think about, because like Kata has had some great results on net play, and if we assume that they are the same on LAN as they are in net play, then I think the really scary thing, like I would obviously say like no chance you win because JCam's there, and there's no way you're gonna beat JCam if you're 11-0 or whatever against Kata if you're JCam. But like maybe JCam plays Javi kind of early and then like loses, and like it's to say who will win, I think is for a tournament like this. I kind of think I would need to see the bracket before I would just like randomly
Yeah,
call out a
I
name if
agree.
possible.
The beauty of
Because
Smash World
like
Tour is that we're going to see so many matches, and it's kind of like Summit, right? Summit, you have see so many matches, and it kind of determines what we're going to see. I think it's going to be one of those things. So yeah, I mean, if you throw JCam in Kanto's path, if you throw Pantera, or like even if he has to play
Far,
Super Quack early, Far, yeah,
Far would be
there's
very
so many
scary.
players. Aza, there's so many players who I think would be scary for all these people, and it's just going to be like a minefield, like having to navigate
Yeah.
all these really scary players.
I think no matter who wins the tournament, it'll be a really good performance for them.
For
I'm
It's
sure.
really
gonna be
excited,
Dream,
right?
isn't it? We're just gonna see Dream with. He's gonna like
He could.
He's gonna forward air like 3 times in a row.
Forward air is very good. It's the punch.
I don't know if I can handle the no fluxes streams after Dream wins Central America.
Well, only time will tell. And I mean, yeah, like I think this is going to be such a cool event. I'm so happy to be able to talk about it on behalf of the. I guess not on behalf of, but in conjunction with Smash World Tour. Super excited to be able to talk about these players because I think this event is going to be super sick. Um, Anything else you guys want to say about Smash World Tour, specifically? I guess people who we've seen from Central America.
I do want to say that there are a couple of people that I'm a little bit sad couldn't make it out. Um, I was really excited to see Lag, so it's unfortunate to not see Lag. I just really wanted to see Lag, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many good players. I think it's like with a region like Central America and Mexico, I think there's so many players who could have been on this list, different time, different place. I think see, I mean, hey, that kind of says it, right? If players are here, we've seen other really good players through this region. So just being here as one of the 16 shows how good they are. So I'm super
Agreed,
excited
yeah.
to do this.
Maybe you
Edwin,
could convince one of the Marts to play Roy. I just wanted to see it.
Edwin, here's something I'm a little less excited about. You've got a little thing on your end, don't you?
Yeah. So every week, well, I guess, but on most normal episodes, we run a segment called the Edwin Budding Stock Exchange, which, if this is your first time tuning in, it's basically like a round table in which the other two guests or three guests of the show go off against each other and dive into some of the hottest topics in Melee. And by some of the hottest topics in Melee, I mean whatever I want to talk about that week. So, without further ado, let's jump into the first segment, which is called Buy One, Sell One. So basically, I'm going to name two things, and you have to buy, and each contestant has to pick which thing they're going to buy and which thing they're going to sell. So with that said, Ambi, for the first Buy One, Sell One question, Buy One, Sell One, Link and Young Link.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I am going to buy Young Link. I think that Link is super overvalued right now because of Aklo. And I think that Young Link is super undervalued right now because people don't know how good Rocket and Nicholas are. So I think those two players will start to pop off. The Link hype will fade, and then Young Link will be the better investment.
All right, and wait.
I'm actually gonna go the opposite. I'm gonna buy Big Big Link. Yeah, I mean, I think that, like, if you want to talk the history of how the links have been viewed, Armada kind of really skyrocketed the stocks for Young Link. But I think seeing players like, I mean, the thing with Link players are that we don't really get to see a ton of results from them as good as they are. We've seen Save State go to the EU, have some really good wins, and have like even better Twitter clips. And if you're talking EU, we got to talk Six, who I legitimately think is like has a claim to be the best Link main ever. Didn't enter stuff for a while. Entered, I think it was Fett or something along those lines, and beat Nikki. Like what an amazing guy. I think that if you only have to play one of the characters, I think Big Link, I think is better, and I think for that reason we might see more continued use from that.
Okay. Wait. Buy One, Sell One, SFOP, and Android Zero.
I mean, you're kind of putting me in a predicament here, right? Android Zero, as I've claimed on the show before, is the best player ever. I think Android Zero would Android Zero. I think Android Zero would probably four stock Armada right now. I think he would four stock Armada in 2018. I think I think he's such a great player, and we've seen more land results. So we've seen him beat Katoran. Like, what more do I have to say? Android Zero, best player of all time.
What do you have to say, Ambi?
I think you get better dividend every quarter if you pick SFOP. I think just in terms of someone that will repeatedly return on investment for you by entering more than one event, I'm gonna go with SFOP.
Oh yeah, like entering more than one event. Like Android Zero does every week, multiple events a week.
I don't know, dude.
He is a
I feel like
local.
he's
All right. Ambi, you get to close off the buy or start the final question of the Buy One, Sell One segment. Buy One, Sell One, Toph's dominance in Melee Jeopardy, or Epic Murloc's dominance in the Ganondorf Ditto.
well, I feel like this one is okay. I don't know if I agree with this one. Okay, I feel like the obvious answer is Toph, right? Like Toph is clearly gonna be better. And Epic Murloc already lost to none, right? Uh, Ganon tournament. I feel like it's gotta be Toph, right? Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I understand this dynamic here. I'll go with Toph.
Wait, you get the last word.
Melee Jeopardy has been an amazing thing to work on. That being said, Ambi and I have worked on it, and himself from this question kind of makes me think that I don't know, maybe the SEC should be involved. This doesn't feel like good business practices. I'm gonna say Epic Murloc, top three at SoCal Arcadian.
One, Sell One segment. So now for the second segment is Are You Buying the Dip? So I'm going to name something that I believe to be on at a low evaluation, and each of the contestants are going to tell me whether they're going to buy this stock with the expectation that it will shoot right back upward and gain a high value. So wait, are you buying the dip on moonwalking?
Yeah, I love moonwalking. I think that as long as Twitter exists, and as long as the ability to put a video file on the internet will stay, which presumably will be a thing for a little bit, I think Moonwalk. Now, is it something where like every new player has to learn it to, like as an integral part of their game? No, like we know that's not the case. We already know that right now. But moonwalking will always be cool, and moonwalking, more importantly, will always be fun. And if it's cool and fun in a game like Melee, it'll never go away.
Ambi?
I love moonwalking. I moonwalk with the best of them. I'm not buying the dip on moonwalking, and let me tell you why. Because GameCube controllers are going to die. So you have two options. If you're a gamer in the future and you want to play Super Smash Bros. Melee, you can play in a box, in which case you don't need to moonwalk because you can do smash turn backwards jump, which is the better than moonwalk in every possible way. And you get like a custom tricked out goom wave type shit, which has notches, which make moonwalking a pain in the ass, and it destroys your notches, and you don't ever want to do it. So I think that moonwalking is unfortunately not going back up, and it will only get worse with the increased prevalence of notches in the meta. So I'm not buying the dip on moonwalking.
Okay. Ambi, are you buying the dip on the term shuffle?
Is that in a dip? I don't know. That's just I, what?
Yeah, like
When did this
using it
term
as a
go down in
term, like
value? You've just not been hanging out in the newbie discords,
no,
buddy.
dude,
Where's
do people say shuffle nair? Like,
Oh my
I don't
god,
like
dude.
that
You're
you're
hanging out with too many
questioning the
nerds.
premise of this question.
Your
Oh my
little
god. No, dude. Maybe I'll take the wheat route and I'll recuse myself from this question. Just because
your
I
little
think that
ivory tower where you
maybe you
ignore
gotta hang out more in
people.
like the O2 tournament discord that Divine Senator Kelly runs. But I'm sure that term gets used and I think it's fine. So oh, you know
So
what?
you're
Maybe
buying it,
okay, no. So I am I'm buying the dip because I don't think L canceling will go away. Uh, if L canceling went away, then it would go down because it would just be shuff then. But L canceling I think is here to stay, so I think shuffling is fine.
You beat me to
all
it.
right.
Now for a question
Wheat, what
like
do
this,
you have
which
to
is
say on this?
a question like this, which is so obviously false, right? Every that we'll get an everybody stock exchange question, which just won't be based in reality.
No, dude, people don't say shuffle nair. Who says shuffle?
Earth, you're not supposed to do that.
I feel like
It literally won't auto cancel if you do that.
I feel like the fact that
No,
you are
dude.
talking
I
over
think
me
I think
during my should give me bonus points because
oh
I
my god.
you set it up for me to talk and then you talked over me. I was gonna say something really funny and now I'm not gonna say it. It was gonna be probably the funniest thing that I ever would have said, and yet I cannot say it now. Okay.
Whatever, dude.
Question,
For the
please.
last "Are you buying the dip?" question,
I'll buy the
are
dip on
you
Edward
buying
Buddy
the?
Stock Exchange because it's at an all-time low right
Oh,
now.
no, dude. Just answer the question. Are you buying the dip on the Kings of Cali series?
No. I mean, Kings of Cali seems to be at an all-time low, and it seems that the 1% chance that would happen, it makes sense to buy the dip. That would require me to trust Blur on a level which I can't trust Blur. I mean, could Doran take the Kings of Cali series and make it? Yeah, he'd probably do a great job. But I think Blur will keep everything he owns in his cold, dead hands. And I think as smart as it would be, as a good business investment as it would be to buy the dip, I don't think I can bring myself to do so.
Ambi, you get the last word.
I think the value of the Kings of Cali brand is pretty much zero. So I think that if I put any amount into it, an amount that I'm okay with losing, that it can only possibly go up like infinity
It can
percent.
only go up.
So I think financially, I'm kind of strong armed into saying that I'm buying it just because I think that
All the
there's not
experts
really any risk
that.
involved. It can't go any lower. So
All right. And for the final segment of the stock exchange, This is a segment called Market Watch. So basically, I pose an open-ended question, and both the contestants answer it. Ambi, which Melee region do you think is poised for a special breakout in 2022?
What region is poised for a breakout? Well, okay. I think that if you include the possibility of compendiums, that Chile is going to break out. I think that people need to be flown out in order to be able to afford going from Chile to North America or Europe or whatever. But I think that there's a number of players in that particular part of the world that I think are really really underrated and very strong. And I think that all it would take is for one of them to come to the United States and then get a bunch of wins and then go back and then lose a bunch, which happens a lot. And then everyone thinks Chile is really good. So I think Chile is a good answer to this question.
And you got to close the stock exchange.
Very, very good answer from my friend and competitor, Ambi Sinister, and something that went through my head as well. I think Chile is an amazing answer, and yet I am going to say the Midwest. I'm going to say specifically the middle of America. Now, do they have the strongest players right now, even with Zamu moving to Arkansas? No, maybe not. But with what we know about climate change, I think that the coastal cities, the scenes will dip and we'll all move inward, and then suddenly all of our majors will be in like Ohio and Illinois, Indiana, and I think that the level of play, like Kansas, will be the new SoCal. Uh, so I'm playing the long term here. I'm going to say in 2022, due to rising climate change levels, we're going to see the Midwest as the new.
Dude, Game Boy Jr. is gonna be so sick.
Yeah, he's gonna be
All
already
right.
there. He's gonna like he's gonna beat like West Balls when West Balls has to migrate. I don't know. West Balls is dying in SoCal. He's gonna be like covered in water. He's gonna be like drowning, drowning in an in and
All
out or
right.
something.
Well, after a up and down stock exchange in which two contestants did not agree with one of the premises of my question, it turns out that there's a familiar answer at the end of it, which is a Wheat victory. Congratulations, Wheat. You have won another week of the stock exchange. And as a result, you get your minute of fame to talk about whatever you want.
Yeah, I appreciate this. Some are calling me a young Jordan. Some are calling me a young LeBron. That's basically it. Maybe I'll be in the next Space Jam. I think this streak, obviously, I think people want to give me the credit, but I do think that the 95% of good questions that come up are all from Edwin, and I think he deserves a little bit of the credit, and he also deserves a little bit of that money that I PayPal him every week so I can win. So I want to thank you for that, my good friend.
The segment is not rigged. Wheat was joking. Let's jump into the Q&A.
We got some questions. If you want to throw any questions in the chat, we're a little lighter than we normally are. So this might not be a huge segment, but yeah, if you have anything, feel free to throw it in the chat. What do we got? So SF Self-Flagellate. He has any players who've been doing really cool shit on land you want to shout out? Obviously, we already talked about the best player of all time, Android Zero, who recently won a Verdugo West over Kajoran and Ringler.
I think Fiction is
Yeah.
another really good answer to this. He won that I think the TFT or something over Army and someone else.
Yeah, Verdugo West. He's actually been a really he's been a mainstay of what Verdugo West, which is like really that and Pizza Time in San Diego, or whatever it's called. Man, I hope it's called Pizza Time because I'll feel like I'm just like really juvenile. It's not. Pizza Time.
No, it is Pizza Time. I'm
Okay,
pretty
so
sure.
Verdugo West and Pizza Time are two of the SoCal locals that we've seen popping up, but we've seen him at like almost every Verdugo West. And this is the Fiction who is Falco now. The Fiction who kind of just lost to Man Ray. So I'm not sure if I had the highest hopes about what Fiction's career would be like as a Falco man. I'm pretty sure I looked at him like I looked at Drug Fox, which I was just like, this isn't gonna last. You're gonna change. Uh, but we've been seeing him stick to this, and we've been seeing really good results. He beat, I believe he beat Army a few weeks ago, and then yeah, just this week he won a tournament over Army and over Westballs. So like, yeah, super
Yeah,
sick player.
something going kind of unsaid here is that Army's still really good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like we're just talking like, oh yeah, he beat Army. That's amazing. It's like, oh wait, Army's like still good. He was not just a wobbler. He's still very, very good at hitting people very hard off of the grab.
yeah, we've seen a
Um,
few of those Verdugo Wests where it is Fiction, Westball's Army, and they all, I mean, with a small sample size, they all been kind of beating each other up. So I'm like super excited to see how this is gonna. Army, he did beat Fiction. Army has a win on Westballs. Like this is in the world as it is with Wobbly. Are we going to see him be like number 2 on the SoCal PR? Maybe not, but I think people kind of point to Army and Bananas and a lot of the non like creative ice climbers, whatever pejorative you want to use. Uh, and they're like, oh, you can't do well without wobbling. But like we've seen the rollback rumble, which kind of unfortunately ended in a DQ. And we've seen these events. So yeah, dude, what a great answer. Are we only naming SoCal people?
Yeah, I was gonna mention that I think those are very good examples of land stars, but I'm gonna go for something a little more like, like at a bit of a lower level, admittedly, but still people we should be looking out for as rising stars. I want to give a shout out to Wally and Error, especially Error, who I know has been like, it's kind of been a running like gag that he's just like the greatest player in New Jersey to never get ranked officially, but he has really been impressing me with his results in his state, which I know we talk about New Jersey results being all over the place, but lately he won a big tournament over a couple of really strong sheiks like Tommy and Fable. I know he won a weekly over them. I know he's been going to a lot of tournaments doing well. It's been really nice seeing Wally come back and performing at the level which he certainly we knew he was capable of, and we saw him when back in early 2020
Yeah,
when we thought he was a breakout star to look for. So I
already
wanted
has
to
even
shout those
Ryobi.
two out in particular.
Yeah, Wally.
Yeah.
Wally, huge traveler. Uh, it's
He'll
fine.
like randomly be at Xanadu's,
Yeah,
which is just insane. Because I have
I
to go to
wanted.
Jersey to visit my family and stuff, and it's like 4 hours. I don't do it that often because I don't want to drive 4 hours each way. He'll just like go
Oh,
to
speaking
Xanadu
of
and then go home.
To make it seem
Northeast
like
players,
I know I want to talk about Wally. Such a sick competitor going all this shit, but then I realized that it kind of makes him sound like a super spreader. He's vaccinated. He is safe. He has masked up. It does, yeah. Maybe it's like not the coolest thing to brag about. It's like he went to a Jersey local, a New York local. He went to
yeah,
Xanadu.
I guess not
He drove
today.
to Boston. It's like maybe this is the wrong time for that to be really cool. But results in all those: Jersey, New York, the G Town Tom's birthday bash, Xanadu.
New York, New York, take your pick. Oh my
Hold
goodness.
that
Like,
land, hold that L, hold that L. He's gonna be at. Yeah, I think that's super good. You're gonna mention someone.
I wanted to note on the topic of Northeast players who have taken a massive step forward. I would feel terrible if I did not bring up Warmer. They have just been killing it at
Warmer
events
is so
that they've
sick.
been
Yeah,
going to.
Yeah,
yeah. They beat Smuckers, I think, at the last tournament, right? Like
Yeah, they have win. They also have wins over like Swooper and J-Flex,
yeah. Was that at the
Ryobi.
nightclub, or I know that they beat Smuckers? That was the one that I remember Connecticut going crazy for. Like 7 other people like later that run.
I know that they had a huge second at G Town or at Tom's birthday bash last weekend, and they've just been killing it
yeah.
across like
Hella good for sure.
every tournament.
Warmer has kind of been one of those players. They're definitely one of those players who you see the gradual rise. I've talked about this on the podcast before, where if I see a gradual rise in the top 200, top 150 level player, I generally think that that's, if they continue to play melee, that's a great sign. I look at that and I see more predictive value than a win over a top 50 player here and there. And I think we've seen that from Warmer. I think they have been able to put together a lot of really impressive tournament runs. And maybe we haven't seen all the pieces fit in just yet to say like, oh, top 100 level, top whatever level. But I think like we're almost there just because of the strength of results that we continue to see on a consistent basis. I think that's a great one.
For sure, agreed.
Do we have any other questions that we want to get to? I know that was kind of one we stuck on for a while. See any posted in the chat. Do you have Edwin? You got a question for either one of us?
Do I have a question for either one of you guys? Nothing for on stream. I mean the only question the only question I would have is like the only question I have is like you know it's I mean we already recapped it earlier. Like if you had to pick one person to win the Central American qualifier, who is it?
Wow, all about callbacks. I mean, okay. I think, damn, that's a tough one. I mean, I said JCam. I think JCam would be good. I think that all these players like have their vices here. I'll be cool. I'll just say you.
I'm gonna be
Once
the
again,
psycho. I'm gonna be the
not you,
psycho.
Edward, but you.
I think
But
Javi
You're
will
not gonna
win.
pick like hot. Oh my god! Can you imagine how sick it would be if
I
Javi
think
just came back? It was nasty.
Javi will play one of the Samuses, and it'll be like last stock game 5, and then he'll destroy everyone else.
will the young Link come out?
Maybe for game 4.
I don't want to see
But
that young Link.
Dude, that would be so crazy if Javi just came back and
that'd
was
be
still
really nuts,
sick
wouldn't it?
after all these years.
I could see it happening. I'm not just saying this to say it.
Yeah, I mean, literally,
I
none of
remember
us
Gimmer
know, right?
before Apex 2014 saying that he thought Soft would win the tournament. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm not claiming that Soft will win the tournament. I do remember he did that. I thought it was so funny at the time. I think Javi could actually win. It's just very uncertain. So I'm gonna be the guy that says the psycho thing.
Okay. Well, Edwin, you got a top. We're
I'm gonna go with the boring pick and go with Bimbo.
okay. Well, perfectly in line with your spot in this group. And obviously, as we get closer to the tournament, we'll know more about it. I think we'll have like a better idea of who could actually do this. But yeah, I think like in terms of what we know right now, I don't think these are horrible guesses. I think it's funny that none of us
Dude,
said
none of
any.
us picked J Cam or Eddie Mexico. J Cam and Eddie Mexico are like by far the two best results. That is wild.
Well, I think
All
JKM is
all
gonna
three of us
qualify.
just-
I was
That's a
making the
wild
joke in the
reason.
chat that I think all 3 of us think JKM's gonna get second.
J-Cam's getting second. We don't know
Dude,
who's
that's
getting
so
first. 8
crazy.
people could get first, but J-Cam's the only person who's going to get second.
J Cam is the safest.
Hey,
That's so wild,
that's a
dude.
slot. That's a slot to Smash World Tour, and that is impressive. Yeah, so we're kind of running to the end of our show right now. I haven't got to see you guys recently on the show because we Ambi, you've been so busy, and I've been really happy that you've been able to make it today. And then I have my little one-on-one episode with Tafo, which you can check out on podcast apps, or you can check out on Melee Stats Archive. But obviously, we'll get the plugs later. But yeah, we usually do a little thing at the end of the show. We're trying to talk about something that is non-May related that's been going on in our lives. Uh, I guess I'll go first. Ambi, I think I kind of know you got a big one. Well, somewhat
Do
big.
I?
You have a
Oh,
Or
okay. No,
you-
I know what you're talking
yeah.
about. I should talk about that. I was not going to talk about that.
Okay, well I'll let you decide on that. I will talk about mine. I This is gonna be like when I talk about Wally, I'm gonna sound like a super spreader. I went to a concert recently. I went to a concert which I was able to get the tickets for free. If this is just one of the many things in my life where I'm like a baby in a cartoon who is just like waddling along and managing to like find all these riches. one of the many free tickets I've been able to somehow walk backwards into. So I'm very grateful for that. But I was able to see a Philly band in Philly by the name of Japanese Breakfast. They were great. I was also able to see an opener, which goes by a different name. I mean, it goes by a name that I probably shouldn't say on here, but it starts with mannequin and ends with a different word. And I would say that is the band that I would recommend. Such a sick band. Um, they had my number one song of 2019. I'm sure somewhere on my Twitter, because I tweet once a year. I'm sure it's on there. I'm sure it's easy to find. I would say that band, their most recent EP, Perfect. I think they've been killing it. And from a live band standpoint, dude, the second they started playing, I had a grin that was like wider than my mask. It was like Cheshire Cat levels. Speaking of Cheshire Cat, does anyone else have anything?
Oh, okay. So this is not the thing I thought you were talking about. Okay, so I guess there's a third thing. Uh, yeah, okay, I got a cat. That's
Whoa!
a random thing that happened to me. Yeah, my fiance and I went to a shelter because like she was like, oh yeah, like let's go to a shelter. It'll be like just like a fun thing to do on a Saturday. Uh, and then we saw this cat, and the cat really liked us, and my fiance begged me to get the cat, so we got the cat, and now we have a cat. His name is Tass, which
Oh
is
yeah.
I think a very good cat name. Yeah, that was not what I was gonna say. I thought we wanted me to tell you guys that I got into a master's program provisionally part
Yeah,
time.
I thought you were gonna
I,
say
I
that
thought that's what
also.
I was
I
being led to, and then there was the cat thing. But that also
it,
happened.
this is how
And
I
what I
knew
was
you're like,
originally gonna say is I've been really into In the Groove, which is like DDR, but like
yeah.
for people that have it in their house. And I'm trying to build a pad like at home because I think it might be necessary to get cardio in my house soon. So I think I'm trying to in wood, and maybe I'll be able to play In the Groove. But I feel like I've been hogging the time because I tried to say three things. Uh,
No,
but
it's
that's
okay.
what's going on
Edwin's
with me.
going to talk about everything he's eaten for the past 2 weeks, and that's going to take a lot longer.
So for what I've been doing, I guess on the topic of pets, it's not too soon to say this. So I'm actually I'm getting a dog lately. So it was we were gonna get it. Me and my spouse were
Wait.
gonna get it in September. Me and my spouse were gonna get it in September, but we got pushed up. So I'm actually getting it in like 2 weeks. So
Do I have
I'm
to get a
getting a.
lizard
Did
or
I say I'm
something?
getting a dog lately? Yeah, you can tell that I'm not a pet person like at all, but I'm pretty excited. Like it's gonna be a new phase of my life where
Or
we're
I'll
gonna
have a
name him
bird or
Arnold and
whatever.
everything.
I feel like everyone in Melee Stats is getting animals except for me. I'll just have a bird perched on my shoulder throughout our episodes now.
Yeah.
It'll
So
probably
I'm.
be a good reason to watch us on YouTube.
This is my. This is supposed to be my time to talk. Near interrupt. Let me talk about my dog. Damn it.
You don't even
Go
have
ahead.
it
So
yet.
it's gonna be a. It's gonna be a like a dachshund terrier mix. So it'll be like a small little rat dog. So I'm pretty excited for it. The only other thing I've been doing is I've just been making a lot of mashups. So if you become a Melee Stats patron, you'll see me plug all of my mashups
It's gated,
nonstop.
financially
Yeah,
gated
some
content.
yeah, some of them are good. I promise. The other ones are hideous, but also good. It's been really fun. I think I mentioned it on the show before, but I used to be like really into guitar and music when I was younger. Been nice, kind of like rediscovering my creativity in other areas, even if it's kind of in like the most bizarre way.
I do think it's funny that I'm the one out of three of us here who has not done mashups.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
it's
was.
kind of. I never knew you
I feel
you
like
did
of
it
the
until
people
you
here,
told
it
me.
would probably be you more than the rest of us. I feel like
Yeah,
I'm very musically illiterate compared
I
to the
guess I
two of
gotta
you.
get in on this. Yeah, maybe. Hey, maybe I'll talk about that next time we do an episode.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I got a DAW, and now
I just got into it this week though, so like I'm not like very good at it. I just like I'm still a beginner.
Yeah, well, if you want to check these out, you can support us over at patreon.com/melee stats. You can get these in the patron section of our Discord server, which you can find a link to possibly in the description of this YouTube video. You can watch this on YouTube. You can watch our podcasts, and you can watch other stuff that we have. You can watch it YouTube, the Melee Stats Archive. If you want to watch our long form videos, it's on YouTube Melee Stats. You can check out the tweets that we make to stuff like daily reporting. You can find that at twitter.com/MeleeStatsPod. And if you want to see what we put out in terms of articles, you can Monday Morning Marth, when's Melee. You can do so at MeleeStats.co. And you're watching us on twitch.tv/MeleeStats right now. You can always give us a. Should we shill for Prime? We've never done that. We've always just said everything, but we could be those
Any
Hey,
primers in chat?
primers. But yeah, you can support us through Twitch if you'd like to as well. Edwin, Ambi, rough waters today as the first episode that we've done without a guest, but I think we nailed it. I think you guys are so easy to talk to, and with the exception of that one question about no one saying shuffle anymore, I think this has been
No one
underjoined.
says it. No. When was
No,
the
dude.
last time you heard someone say, "Oh, like I shuffle Naird for them"? No, dude. It was a totally reasonable question. You guys are just dumb. When
No.
was the last time you've
You're
ever
just
heard a
you're
Melee
just
player talk about
gatekeeping,
being?
dude. Anyone that says shuffle
No,
is not a
dude.
real gamer.
That's
That's
not at
what came out
all
of
what
your
I'm
mouth,
saying.
dude.
That is such a straw man, dude. Oh my god, I'm gonna yell at you once the
I
show's
for
done.
one cannot wait for the next episode of Waiting for Game, which is just going to be a 90-minute debate on whether or not people still say shuffle.
Yeah, I'll ask our next guest, but I won't go too much into it.
Yeah, well, we'll be around, and it was so great to be able to talk Smash World Tour today. Hopefully, we're able to give some knowledge to people who might be wondering but might not know everything. Um, so that was super sick. Yeah, I mean, thank you guys for being on, and I want to thank everyone for watching and listening. This has been Waiting for Game, and then we'll see you next week. Peace.